Well, hello, welcome again to our reading of Odyssey, Book 3, and I was up to line 284. So, Nestor is telling the story of the return home of various heroes, and he's been talking in particular about the return home of Menelaus. And just in the earlier verses before there, one of Menelaus's trusty men, the Kubernetes, the helmsman, had either had a heart attack or a stroke. He'd suffered from the gentle missiles of Apollo, and he died. And the story follows on from there. So hos hominentha katesket. Now the hot is referring here to Menelaus. Kateko, here it's in the middle. Katek is a technical word to put your ships into shore. So thus he, that is Menelaus, put in his ship there. We get a pair plus the participle, although epagomenos, hastening on his odoia, on his journey. So although he was hastening on his journey, he put in there Ophra, in order that Thaptoi, this is an optative after the Hophra here, in order that he might bury hetaron for hetiron, just a shortening for the sake of meter, so that he might bury his comrade, and the epi goes with the verb is katerizdo, and then that also goes with kateria. It's an expression meaning to honour with funeral gifts. The kateria are the funeral gifts, and the verb katerizdo is to honour with funeral gifts. So Greek likes to have the verb and the noun together here. Al hoti day, but when also he, having gone on the wine-dark sea, literally the wine-eyed sea, it's that oinopa, on the wine-eyed sea. Ixe, this is from that Hixe, he went. This is an aorist from Hiko, I think. Theon is a participle. Don't confuse that with theon, the gods. This is theon, participle from theo. Running, perhaps rushing, we might say. In his hollow ships, rushing, he went to the steep mountain of Malea. Now, Malea, of the Maleans, I think here. So this refers to the southern promontories of the Peloponnesus. So he's near where he needs to be. But at that time, in fact, Euruopa Zeus. Now this is a nominative adjective. We've come across this before, I think. Nominative adjective, meaning one who sees broadly, so wide-seeing Zeus. Ephrasitot devised, from this phrasdo verb, he devised a hateful journey. Stugiros is an adjective. Hodon, of course, is feminine noun, second declension feminine, hence the ending here. So at that time, Zeus, who sees wide-seeing Zeus, devised a hateful journey. And Hue, and I think goes with the epi, so he poured out against him a utmena, blasts of shrill winds, blasts of noisy winds, and Peloria goes with the kumata, monstrous waves, trophe enter, well, I think it's generally rendered as swollen, so swollen waves. It's probably connected with trepho. So he poured out against him these blasts of shrill winds and monstrous swollen waves, like to mountains. Issa oresin, this is dative plural from oros. And there, dear to Mexas, now we get tas min, and there's no det really that goes with it. It means part of, or some of. The tas is feminine, must be referring to the ships. diatamago is to cut in two. So it's dividing his ships in two. He drew some of them, that's the Tus men, he drew them near from Pelasdo, Crete. So he split the ships up into two, parting his ships. He brought some of them near to Crete. It's up a bit here. Aiki, where the Cydonians, now these are one of the races in Crete, Enion from Nio used to dwell, Amphireithra around the streams of Iardanos, must be a river, around the streams of Iardanos, Estidetis Lysae Aipia es Hala Petrae, and there is a certain smooth and steep rock. Ace Hala must mean something like leading down to the sea. Escartiae Gortonos, at the edge, literally at the last part of it, so at the edge, on the outskirts of Gorton, this is a city I think, on the misty sea. Well, literally the air appearing, so I think this is just misty on the misty sea. Entha, there, Notos, the south wind, Othe from Othio, pushes back the great wave, Potiskyon, in the direction of the Rion, the promontory or headland, Skyon on the left, so perhaps the western headland, into Phaistos. So it pushes this great wave in that direction into Phaistos, and again another important town in Crete. Mikros to Litho, and this funny little expression here, and a small lithos, a small rock, apo ergo, this is from that erg root, not work, but keeping things away from, fencing things off, holds back. So apo ergo here is to keep away. So a small rock holds back or keeps away the great wave. Hymen, so this must be the ships again. So some of the ships came there, but the Andres, the men, Luxan is from alusco, to avoid or to flee or to escape from, and Spude with much effort, with much difficulty, so with much effort, or sometimes with much haste, it can mean as well. With much effort here is probably the right thing. So the men with much effort, they avoided Olethron destruction. Ate, but now the kumata, I think, is the subject here. It's neuter plural, but we've got a plural verb. This is the verb, it's from agnumi, if you're looking it up, and it's irregular aorist here. It's got an epsilon augment at the beginning, which is rather odd. It's from agnumi, to smash or to break up. So the waves smashed or broke the ships, in fact, Poti against the Spiladesin. The Spilas is any rock over which the sea dashes. So these are perhaps rocks near to the shore. So the waves smashed the ships, in fact, against the rocks near to the shore. Ater tas pentinias. Now there's no comma or full stop here, so you have to take the whole two lines together. The animos tekai hodor, two different subjects but a singular participle and verb, that's okay. So wind and water carrying the 5 ships with their dark prows, drew them near to Egypt. This is from Kuanos. It unfortunately cognate with our word cyanide, which is a sort of dark blue. Kuanos is probably a dark blue colour. We get cyan from this, that colour that you put into your printer. Also cognate with this. It's a kind of dark colour, or sometimes dark blue, sometimes just best rendered dark. And the prows, they used to paint, of course, the prows of the ship, sometimes with eyes and things. So the way to remember this is pro looks like prow, and probably is cognate with it, as to be not to be confused with prumne, which is the stern. So these are the ships with their dark prows. The wind and the water, bringing these 5 ships with their dark prows, brought them near to Egypt. Now this is interesting because in the play The Helen of Euripides, Menelaus has a shipwreck and goes to Egypt. And in that play, Helen apparently has not gone to Troy at all. It was a phantom that went, and the real Helen spent the time of the Trojan War in Egypt. And then by sheer accident, Menelaus has a shipwreck and arrives in Egypt. So this much of the story about going to Egypt is in later Greek myth as well, and I recommend the play The Helen for you to read. It's a very good play. Hos homen enthapolon bioton kai kruson ageiron. Thus he, this is Menelaus, ageiron, gathering there much bioton. Well, it means livelihood, but probably in the sense of provisions and gold. So he finds all this stuff in Egypt. So he there gathering together many provisions and gold. We get the verb eilato, sun neusi. So this is from alaamai, which is the verb to wander. It's a moderately common verb in Homer. So alaamai, to wander. So he wandered with his ships amongst men who were alathros, well, perhaps speaking strange tongues, perhaps just foreign, amongst foreign men who speak other tongues. Tophra, meanwhile, Aigisthos, Aigisthos, Maid Sato from Maidamai, he was planning oikothi at home these baleful things, these wicked things. But for 9 years, Ainase, imperfect from anaso, he was ruling, and takes a genitive, he was ruling Mycenae with its much gold in Mycenae. Tenas Atreidain, having killed the son of Atreus. But the people, dead Mator, this will be a pluperfect passive here from damnami, to tame, I think. So the people had been tamed under him, or by him, or had been tamed under him. So this is the people of Mycenae, because he's a tyrant. To dehoi og doato. Now there's no etos here. It's in there, isn't it? It's hiding in there, I think, the etos. So, but in the 8th year, glorious Odysseus, Eiluthe, that's that Aeolic form for Aelthe, from Erchomai, he came, and kakon it's neuter here, it's probably an adverb here. He came as a source of trouble. Hoi, to him, that is, to Aigisthos. So kakon probably, I can't see it where else can be. This is an intransitive verb, so it can't have an object here, so kakon must be adverbial here, I think. So in the 8th year, glorious Orestes came as a source of trouble to him, back from Athens. We're not told why he was at Athens. We know later on, after he's killed his mother, he has to go off to Athens, appear before the Areopagus and so on. And the kata goes with the katano, he slew the patrophonius. It would be the nominative. This is the slayer of his father. So he slew the slayer of his father, the murderer of his father, wily Aigisthos, it's tricky-minded Aigisthos, who, ektar, this is this apocryphated aorist form from katano, who slew his famous father for him, so dative of the possessor, so who slew his famous father. Atoi hopton katenas, and it's almost accordingly here, atoi. You can translate these particles, you should translate them as something, but you can play with the particles a little bit. It's something like indeed, or perhaps here, so indeed he, the one having killed ton, him, so that is Orestes having killed Aigisthos. Dinu taphon go closely together here. The dinu is an imperfect from the verb dinumi. I think it's an imperfect here. It could be present, historic present, but more likely I think an imperfect without augment. From dinumai, which is originally meant to distribute. These terms together here mean to celebrate a funeral feast. So dinumai often mean to celebrate a feast, or to give a wedding feast, or to celebrate a feast, but here it's to celebrate a funeral feast with the Argives for his hateful mother. This is Clytemnestra. This is from stugeros. You get a verb stugio, to hate, from his hateful mother, and for Aigisthos, who was an Alkidos. So without valour, so cowardly Aigisthos. Aut Ama, and on the very same day, Menelaus, good in respect of the war cry, came to him. That's to Orestes. Agon, bringing much or many possessions. These are the things that he got from Egypt. As many as the ships, this is from airo, to lift, so hence to carry or to bring perhaps, as many as the ships brought, Aigisthos as cargo. I think this is just an internal accusative here. Hoi, for him. So he came with bringing many possessions, as many things as his ships were loaded up with as cargo. Hoi, for him. And that's the next instalment of Odyssey Book 3.